Hey y'all, welcome back to another ballistics gel test. Today we're going to be shooting Winchester Super X 223 Remington 55 grain soft point. So I've got another varmint load for you. And here's the box for that Winchester Super X 55 grain jacketed soft point varmint and predator. Let's flip it around and take a look at the back. Here is all of your factory promo information. Feel free to pause and read all that if you would like. Coming down here is your ballistics table. And let's go ahead and open up the box and take a look at some of this ammo. If I can get this, oh, come on, there we go. That one was tough to get open. Per standard, Winchester comes in a styrofoam container. Let's yank one out and take a look. And there she is, just a perfect little 55 grain soft point. Let's see how it does. And the test rifle today is my CZ527 carbine. It's got an 18 or 18.5 inch barrel, I don't exactly recall. Chambered in 223, of course. Up top, I've got a Vortex Crossfire 2 3-9x40 scope. And coming on back, I've got one of my leather cartridge pouch cuffs, which incidentally perfectly holds a CZ527 magazine, coincidentally enough, so it works for that as well. Check out my website, masonleather.com. I would absolutely love to make you one. And coming around to the other side, I've got to show you, I've got my wild bore design. We'll be taking 3 shots from 100 yards, firing into 10% ballistics gel that has been calibrated to meet the FBI's ballistics testing protocol. And while ballistics gel isn't an exact proxy for big game, it does provide a repeatable medium through which to test various bullets and ammo against each other. After the shots, we'll examine bullet expansion, weight retention, penetration, and velocity. My goal is to provide hunters like you and I with the most objective information possible to help us make the best choice for our particular hunting situation. The ballistics gel in this video has been sourced from Clear Ballistics. You can find a link in the description. So let's go ahead and shoot it. And we are down here at the blocks after shooting that Winchester 55 grain jacketed soft point varmint ammo. And before we take a look at the blocks, we got to take a look at this big old boy right here. We're about to have to run this guy off the range because he is getting too close. He stayed far away most of the time, but kind of getting in the way here. Anyways, let's go over here and take a look. So we did manage to capture all 3 bullets, and they're a little hard to see. There's one right there. Come on down to the side. There we go. Now you can see them. Boom, boom, and boom. It looks like they held together for the most part, and being a varmint bullet, that's a little surprising. We did get some wound cavity here. Nothing too explosive. It's nothing like a Hornady VMAX will do, but between about the 1.5 inch mark and 6 inch mark, there's some serious damage going on. But penetration wise, we got, I'm going to call that one 11 inches, 12 inches, and 13 inches just to make it easy. I think these things did about what they were supposed to do. And let's take a look at the velocities for that Winchester 55 grain jacketed soft point varmint load. Ooh, cooking right along. Our high was 3167, our low 3009, and our average was 3089. And here we are looking at those Winchester Super X 55 grain jacketed soft points as recovered from the ballistics gel. Let's talk about weight retention. We saw 27, 37, and 38 grains respectively for an average of 34 grains retained weight. That works out to 62% weight retention, and honestly I'm surprised it's that high. This is just a 55 grain soft point going pretty darn fast. We'll talk about velocity in a second, so I'm surprised they retained as much weight as they did. And then on to expansion, we saw 0.43, 0.48 and 0.51 inches for an average of 0.47 inches expanded diameter. That works out to 2.1x expansion. And as you can see, the bullet in the middle and on the right there, they have pretty darn uniform expansion all the way around. And the one all the way on the left is close. I've seen a lot worse than that. These expanded very, very well. And now on to velocity. Our high velocity was 3,167 feet per second. Our low was 3,009 for an average of 3,089 feet per second versus the factory build velocity of 3,240. So while we did come in 151 feet per second slow versus the build velocity from the 18-inch barrel of my CZ, we're still cooking along over 3,000 feet per second at the muzzle, and that's why I'm so surprised that these held together as good as they did. I mean, after all, this is a varmint bullet. It's got a prairie dog, a coyote, and I think like a woodchuck on the box. And then onto penetration, we saw 11 inches, 12 inches, and 13 inches respectively for an average of 12 inches of penetration. And I think for what these are, that's pretty darn good. And then real quick onto kinetic energy, with a 55 grain bullet going on average 3,089 feet per second, we're looking at 1,165 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. All right, y'all, time for my final thoughts on that Winchester Super X 55 grain jacketed soft point load out of the 223. Now, I've been doing a lot of deer-oriented 223 loads. This is not a deer-oriented load. This is sort of a budget classic soft point varmint load for the 223. There's pictures of varmints on the box, not a deer. So that's kind of what we're judging it by. Weight retention wise, 62%. I'm actually kind of surprised it was that high, being that it's just a simple cup and core lead and copper bullet that was going over 3,000 feet per second. Maybe not on impact, but at the muzzle, these things were cooking right along. And then expansion wise, I was again surprised. They expanded pretty well, 2.1x, and it was fairly uniform. They made some nice little mushrooms. Velocity wise, we came in 151 feet per second slower than the factory build velocity. Sort of par for the course with what we're seeing with 223 loads, at least out of my 18-inch barreled CZ. If you had a longer barrel, maybe you'd see more velocity. Most people with a 223 are shooting 16 and 18-inch barrels these days, so I think it's appropriate and it's good data. Penetration-wise, we got 12 inches of penetration on average, and it was pretty consistent, 11, 12, and 13 inches respectively. For a varmint bullet, I'm kind of surprised it didn't blow up a little bit more than it did, but if you're looking for a varmint load that's going to penetrate a little bit more and hold together a little bit more, I think this could be your ticket. And then kinetic energy wise, with a 55 grain bullet going on average 3,089 feet per second, you're looking at 1,165 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle, which is right there in line with a lot of other 223 loads I've tested. They tend to hover around the 1,200 foot-pound mark, 11 to 1,200 foot-pounds, and this is right there. So if it were me, what would I use this ammo for? Well, if my gun particularly liked it and it shot it accurately, I wouldn't hesitate to use it, around the ranch, around the farm, whatever. Need to take out a coyote or something. This would definitely do the job for you. Hey, if you enjoy these videos, check out my website, masonleather.com, and get yourself some leather gear handmade by me just for you. I've been handcrafting leather gear for hunters for over a decade, and I would love to make you something. The link is in the video description. And check out my channel for more hunting ammo ballistics gel tests. I have some big news. Lots of you have emailed me or commented how much value you get out of my videos. And you've asked me, how can you be a part of this and help support the channel? Well, I got to work and now I have a way. I've created a Patreon account where you can join me in helping our fellow hunters. Click the link in this video's description and watch my Patreon welcome video, where I describe to you how your help will impact this channel and our community of hunters as a whole. And when you join me on Patreon, you'll get a lot more than I can give you here on YouTube. You'll have to go watch that welcome video linked in the description to find out the details. I'll see you there.